Hello there, dear listener. Tonight, as the world around you settles into silence and the last echoes of the day dissolve into the dark, let us drift together into the quiet corridors of space. Out there, beyond the comforting light of our sun and the familiar orbits of the planets, there are mysteries that wander, unseen for eons, until suddenly, without warning, they appear in our sky. Among them, one carries a name both clinical and poetic, 3I Atlas. It is the third confirmed interstellar visitor humanity has ever glimpsed, and though it lingers only briefly in our awareness, its presence stirs something deep within us. When we speak of the cosmos, we are often reminded of its immensity, its overwhelming silence, and its ancient patience. Stars ignite and fade across billions of years. Galaxies slowly twist like vast, glowing whirlpools. Black holes sing their soundless songs of gravity. Yet within that grand tapestry, there are fleeting travelers, objects cast adrift from their home systems, voyaging endlessly through the dark. They are like wanderers of old, crossing deserts with no maps, guided only by the momentum of chance. 3I Atlas is one such wanderer. Imagine lying beneath the night sky, no city lights, no distractions, just the quiet of a field, or a mountainside, or a wide desert plain. Above you, the Milky Way spills across the heavens like a river of silver dust, and somewhere, so faint it takes instruments to see, this interstellar traveler slips through our solar neighborhood. It does not arrive with fireworks or thunder. It comes quietly, almost shyly, like a guest who does not wish to disturb the household. But its very presence whispers of stories we may never fully know. The name 3I Atlas carries weight. The I stands for interstellar, an origin beyond the protective bubble of our sun's influence. Before it came, we had only two confirmed visitors of such kind. Oumuamua in 2017, a cigar-shaped enigma that puzzled astronomers, and Borisov in 2019, a comet-like traveler trailing a tail of gas and dust. To that short, rare list, 3I Atlas was added. Each is like a message in a bottle, tossed across the ocean of space, drifting until it washes onto the shores of our instruments. We cannot help but wonder, where did it begin? What star, long ago, released this traveler? Perhaps it was born in the cradle of a distant system, circling a sun we will never see. Perhaps it once belonged to the icy outer regions of some alien star's domain, until a chance encounter flung it outward, forever lost to interstellar space. For millions, maybe billions of years, it drifted. Silent, invisible, patient, until, by the smallest of cosmic coincidences, it crossed paths with us. This is the essence of what makes 3I Atlas so stirring. It is not only an object of ice and dust, it is a story, carried silently across unimaginable distances. The materials that form its body could be as old as the universe itself. Its frozen surface may hold traces of elements from another galaxy's nursery of stars. And though it passes us quickly, leaving only data points in its wake, it leaves behind a feeling, a sense that we are not the only witnesses to creation's vast theater. The beauty of thinking about such a visitor lies not in fear, but in wonder. Many headlines speak of the terrifying unknown, of the dangers that lurk in the skies. But tonight, let us take another path. Let us breathe deeply and listen, not for threats, but for whispers. Whispers of time, whispers of distance, whispers of the great interconnectedness of all things. For in many ways, 3I Atlas is like a reminder the universe is not empty. It is alive with movement, alive with stories, alive with mysteries passing quietly through the night. Picture yourself drifting alongside it. Out in the darkness, far beyond the warm glow of Earth, you float beside this icy traveler. It does not speak, yet its presence is eloquent. It carries no engines, no lights, no signal of intent. And yet, its path across our sky is a signature proof that other worlds, other suns, have their own dramas, their own fragments, their own castaways. In 3-Eye Atlas, we glimpse the faint fingerprints of places we cannot reach. Perhaps what soothes us most about this visitor is not what it is, but what it represents: continuity. Across billions of years, across immeasurable voids, matter drifts, collides, disperses, and gathers again. Stars are born, planets form, comets are flung into the dark. And every so often, one of those comets, carrying with it the ancient dust of its birthplace, wanders into our sky. It reminds us that while our lives feel brief and urgent, the universe flows on at its own pace, unhurried, eternal, serene. So tonight, as you close your eyes, let 3-Eye Atlas be more than a name in a catalogue. Let it be a lullaby from the stars, a gentle note in the cosmic symphony. It drifts onward, and so do we. Not lost, but part of the same great current. Not alone, but embraced by the same vast mystery. Sleep now, under the dome of the sky. The visitor is passing. Tomorrow, it will be farther away, until it vanishes from even our instruments. But the whisper it leaves behind, that soft reminder of wonder, will linger. In your dreams, perhaps you will drift alongside it, watching suns rise and fade in silence. Perhaps you will hear the song of the universe carried in its frozen silence. And perhaps, just perhaps, you will awake with a little more awe for the night sky above. When we speak of the cosmos, it is tempting to think of it as a place of fixed patterns, planets circling their stars, moons trailing faithfully, and comets gliding in long, predictable arcs. Yet every now and then, something breaks the rhythm. Something arrives that does not belong to our solar system, something that carries with it the unmistakable signature of another origin. Such objects are rare, so rare that for most of human history, we had no proof they existed. And then, suddenly, in the last few decades, the silence was broken. We realized the universe sends us visitors. 3-Eye Atlas is one of those rare guests, the third of its kind that we have ever confirmed. The name might sound sterile, the kind of label you would find in a scientist's logbook, but behind the code lies a story stretching across unimaginable distances. The 3 marks it as the third interstellar object detected. The I stands for interstellar, an origin beyond the sun's grasp. And Atlas comes from the survey system that discovered it, an acronym, yes, but also a word steeped in myth. In Greek lore, Atlas was the Titan who carried the sky upon his shoulders. How fitting, then, that a telescope bearing his name should reveal to us a traveler carrying the sky's secrets across the void. To call 3-Eye Atlas a visitor is not just poetic, it is literal. This object was not born here. It does not orbit our Sunday. Instead, it drifts into our neighborhood from some unknown birthplace, crossing the invisible boundary that separates interstellar space from the heliosphere, the protective bubble carved out by the solar wind. For the first time in its endless wandering, it entered our realm. For the first time, we saw it. And like any unexpected guest, it brought with it both curiosity and wonder. Think about the journey that must have preceded this arrival. Somewhere, far away, in the outskirts of another star system, forces stirred. Perhaps a giant planet tugged too hard at a passing comet. Perhaps a collision of worlds scattered debris into the void. Perhaps gravity, that patient sculptor of the cosmos, nudged 3-Eye Atlas onto a path of exile. Once freed, there was no turning back. It would never return home. Cast adrift, it became a wanderer of interstellar space, its path unknowable, its destination uncertain. For millions, maybe billions of years, it drifted in silence. Imagine that silence, darker than any night on earth, deeper than any ocean, vast beyond all comprehension. Stars may have been born and died in the time it spent adrift. Entire civilizations could have risen and fallen, never knowing that above their skies, this tiny fragment of matter moved steadily onward. And then, by chance, by the mysterious alignment of cosmic geometry, it came near enough to us that our instruments caught sight of it. Astronomers sometimes speak of discovery as if it were an act of conquest. We found it, we captured its light. But in truth, discoveries like 3I Atlas are acts of grace. The universe allowed us a glimpse. It opened a small window, just for a moment, and we were fortunate enough to be looking. What makes 3I Atlas so remarkable is not just that it exists, but that we recognized it for what it is. To the untrained eye, it could be mistaken for a faint comet, another icy fragment tracing a predictable loop around the Sunday, but its speed betrayed it. Its path through the sky was not bound by the sun's gravity. It was simply passing through, free of our star's embrace. That freedom is what marks it as interstellar. That freedom is what makes it extraordinary. To imagine it, close your eyes and picture a small, icy body, its surface dark, scarred by ancient collisions, perhaps cloaked in a halo of gas and dust released as it warmed near the Sunday. Around it, the stars shift slowly, but 3I Atlas does not linger. It sweeps in, arcs past, and continues outward, unbound. Unlike the comets we know, it will not circle back. Unlike the asteroids we track, it will not become part of our family of worlds. It is a traveler, and we will see it only once. There is a strange comfort in that. To know that even in the great emptiness between stars, there are still threads of connection, still fragments of other places drifting past. These interstellar visitors remind us that we are not isolated. The universe is not a series of sealed boxes, each star system alone. It is porous. It shares. It exchanges. Matter flows across the cosmic ocean, carrying with it the history of countless worlds. And so, when 3I Atlas crossed into our skies, it was as if the universe itself leaned closer and whispered, "You are part of something larger. You are not alone." Even the smallest fragment of ice and rock carries with it a story older than Earth, older than the sun, older than the constellations by which we measure the night. To call this terrifying would be to miss the point. Yes, there is awe in its strangeness, even a shadow of fear in its unknowns. But the greater truth is gentler. 3I Atlas is a reminder that the cosmos is alive with motion, alive with connections unseen, that we are, in some way, kin to these travelers. Our Earth, too, is adrift around the sun, and our sun, too, is adrift through the galaxy. We are all voyagers together. As you drift into sleep tonight, imagine yourself as part of that greater voyage. Picture 3I Atlas gliding past the planets, silent and steady, carrying within its frozen body the memory of a distant home. Imagine it drifting beyond us, into the dark once more, on a journey that may never end, and in that vision, feel the comfort of belonging to a universe that is vast, mysterious, and endlessly connected. Long before 3I Atlas had a name, it was nothing more than a faint smudge of light against the immense background of the stars. It was small, dim, and almost invisible, slipping silently through the night sky. For a long time, no one noticed it. And yet, the moment it entered our cosmic neighborhood, the moment it crossed into the reach of our telescopes, the possibility of discovery began. This was how 3I Atlas revealed itself. The Atlas Survey, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, was built to scan the skies for objects that might come close to Earth. Its cameras take wide-field images, mapping patterns of light with exquisite precision. Most of the time, they find near-Earth asteroids, the kind that circle our sun and occasionally pass uncomfortably close to our planet. But on one particular set of nights, the survey caught something stranger. The object was moving, but not quite like the others. Its path was unusual. Its brightness flickered in ways that hinted at activity. At first glance, it looked like a comet, a small, icy body, shedding gas as it warmed in the sunday. But comets have predictable, looping orbits. This one did not. Instead, its trajectory was hyperbolic, an open arc that would carry it past the sun only once, never to return. At first, astronomers hesitated. They had learned caution from earlier surprises. Was this truly interstellar? Could the calculations be trusted? They ran the numbers again and again. Each time, the result was the same. Its speed was too great for a bound orbit. Its path too sharp, too steep. This was no ordinary comet. This was a drifter from beyond. Think for a moment about what it means to detect such an object. Across the vastness of the sky, millions of stars shine. The light of galaxies, quasars, and nebulae fills every frame. Against this immensity, 3I Atlas was tiny, no brighter than a faint star seen through a backyard telescope. To find it required not only sophisticated instruments, but also the patience to notice the subtle shift, the tiny difference from one night to the next. It is as though the universe whispered, and we managed to listen. The confirmation brought a mix of awe and urgency. Astronomers across the world turned their telescopes toward the newcomer. They measured its brightness, its color, its shape. Some looked for signs of a tail, the hallmark of a comet. Others calculated its speed, trying to project its path forward and backward through time. Where had it come from? Where was it going? Each observation added another brushstroke to the portrait of this visitor. The first signs suggested fragility. 3I Atlas seemed to be shedding material, breaking apart as it approached the Sunday. Its brightness flared and faded unpredictably, as if pieces of it were crumbling away. Some speculated it might not survive its passage through our system at all. This only deepened the sense of urgency. For astronomers, there would be no second chance. If it disintegrated, if it faded, the opportunity to study it would vanish. As news spread, the public too turned their eyes upward. Headlines spoke of a visitor from another star, a phrase that carried equal parts wonder and unease. People imagined what it might mean that matter from distant systems could drift into ours. Some wondered if it carried secrets, perhaps even clues about life elsewhere. Others saw it simply as a reminder of the vastness beyond Earth, a cosmic messenger reminding us how small we are. But within the scientific community, the focus remained steady. Each detection, each measurement was precious. The faint light of 3I Atlas carried information across millions of miles, encoded in brightness and spectrum. Within that light were clues about its composition, its history, its origin. To catch those clues was like listening to an ancient story told in a language we were only beginning to understand. Detection is never just about finding, it is about recognizing. Countless faint objects move through the sky, but only a few carry the marks of the interstellar. It takes a trained eye, a disciplined patience, and often a bit of luck. The discovery of 3I Atlas was a reminder of that delicate balance, that science is as much about listening as it is about looking. Imagine yourself at the telescope during those first nights. The screens glow softly in the dark, each frame filled with countless stars. At first, nothing unusual. Then, a faint point shifts, barely perceptible. You blink, check again, overlay the images. There it is, moving, steady, undeniable. The realization dawns slowly. Like sunrise, this is no ordinary comet. This is something far greater, far rarer. You are watching a visitor from beyond. The wonder of detection is that it transforms the invisible into the known. Before, 3i Atlas was simply drifting, unseen. Now, it had become part of our story, part of our memory of the skies. For a brief time, it shared its light with us, and in that sharing, it reminded us of the openness of the universe. So as you drift into rest tonight, think of those first signs, the faint smudge of light, the subtle movement, the patient eyes that caught it. Think of how vast the sky is, and how miraculous it is that we noticed at all. The cosmos is full of wanderers, and sometimes we are lucky enough to greet them. And in that greeting, there is comfort. For even in the endless dark, even across distances so great they defy imagination, connections are made. A faint dot becomes a messenger. A messenger becomes a story. And that story becomes a lullaby, soothing us with the reminder that we are never truly alone under the stars. Once astronomers confirmed that 3i Atlas was no ordinary comet or asteroid, the next question naturally arose: where is it going? To answer that, they traced its trajectory, a path that revealed much more than just a direction. In its arc, through our solar system, the drifter carried clues about its origins, its journey, and the forces that shaped it across unimaginable time. Most comets and asteroids within our system follow elliptical orbits, looping predictably around the Sunday. Some are long, sweeping ellipses that take centuries to complete. Others are short, neat circles closer to the Sunday. But all are pulled back again and again by gravity's leash. 3i Atlas, however, did not circle. Its path was hyperbolic, open-ended, unbound, like a sling stone that would fly past the sun once and then disappear into interstellar night, never to return. It was approaching from the outer darkness, sliding inward from a high angle relative to the plane of our solar system. Most planets and asteroids orbit in roughly the same flat disk, like beads on a spinning record. But 3i Atlas came from above, diving through the system at a tilt. This alone marked it as different. It was not a child of our sun's disk, but a traveler from elsewhere. Its speed, too, was remarkable. Even before encountering the sun's gravity, it was moving faster than escape velocity. That meant nothing could hold it, not the sun, not Jupiter, not any chain of planets. It would pass through like a stone skipping across a pond, briefly touching, then gone. At its fastest, it rushed at tens of miles per second, a pace that would circle Earth in less than an hour. Such speed was not an accident. It was the momentum of deep time, carried from its birth system across the dark gulf between stars. And yet, the sun did leave its mark. As 3i Atlas drew closer, its path bent, curved gently by gravity. Like a guest politely acknowledging the host before leaving, it bowed toward the sun, swung around, and then straightened again, continuing outward. This gravitational slingshot is a dance performed by all interstellar visitors. The sun greets them, tugs at them, but cannot keep them. They always move on. For astronomers, mapping such a trajectory is like drawing the outline of a ghost. Each dot of light, faint and flickering, is a point in space and time. Connecting them reveals motion, and in that motion lies story. Where did it come from? Perhaps a distant star system, long ago, when a gravitational nudge sent it adrift. Where will it go into another arm of the galaxy? Another endless journey measured not in years but in millennia. The strange path of 3i Atlas also offered perspective. To us, it was sudden appearing, surprising, slipping past. But in truth, it had been traveling for millions, perhaps billions, of years. Our glimpse was only a fraction of its voyage, a heartbeat in its eternity. For all that time, it had drifted in silence, through interstellar clouds, past suns and planets unseen, until, by chance, it crossed ours. There is beauty in imagining such paths. Each star in the sky has its own system of comets and asteroids, its own little worlds bound and unbound. Occasionally, one escapes, sent outward by a collision, a gravitational shove, or some ancient accident. Freed, it drifts between stars, perhaps for eons, until it chances upon another Sunday. In that meeting, it becomes visible, briefly, before moving on. 3I Atlas was one of those wanderers caught in our gaze, then gone again. Some scientists wondered if its trajectory might tell us about its home. The angle suggested origins beyond familiar regions. Its speed hinted at long journeys, perhaps from a young system where planets once shifted violently, scattering debris outward. But in truth, its exact birthplace may never be known. The galaxy is vast, and trajectories blur when traced back far enough. To follow its line backward is like following a single drop in an endless river. Eventually, the source becomes unknowable. And yet, perhaps that is the deeper lesson. The strangeness of its path reminds us of the openness of the universe. Not everything must be explained, not every origin found. Sometimes, it is enough to witness, to marvel, to know that such wanderers exist. Their paths are not predictable, but they are real, and their brief appearances remind us that our solar system is not isolated, but connected, part of a greater whole. Picture now the path of 3I Atlas in your mind's eye. Imagine drawing it across a map of the solar system. A line swoops inward from the dark, curves around the sun, then stretches outward again, fading into distance. That line is not just geometry, it is history. It is the story of a fragment of matter, older than Earth, older than humanity, moving with patient certainty through the galaxy. As you drift towards sleep, think of this path. Think of how brief our glimpse was, how long its journey is. Think of how, for just a moment, our stories crossed that of a small world orbiting a modest sun, and that of a traveler from far away. In the meeting of those paths lies wonder, humility, and peace. As 3I Atlas approached the sun, astronomers began to notice something troubling. The brightness of the comet rose quickly, almost too quickly, suggesting that it was shedding more gas and dust than expected. Then came reports of fragments, pieces breaking away, scattering into smaller bodies that glittered briefly before fading. The visitor from beyond was not whole. It was falling apart. Why does this happen? The answer lies in heat and gravity. Comets are not solid rocks, but fragile mixtures of ice, dust, and frozen gases. Far from any star, they remain intact, preserved in the deep freeze of interstellar space. But when they approach a sun, warmth seeps in. Ice turns to vapor, jets of gas burst from cracks, and the delicate structure begins to fracture. For a comet that has wandered across the cold void for untold millennia, the sudden heat of our sun can be overwhelming. In the case of 3I Atlas, the stress was too great. Astronomers watched as it stretched into pieces, its once tight form unraveling into a loose cluster of debris. Each fragment shone faintly for a while, reflecting sunlight, before fading into invisibility. The great traveler, so steady in its journey, could not survive the warmth of a star it had never known before. There is something both sad and beautiful in this fragility. To think of a voyager crossing interstellar space, enduring collisions and cosmic rays, yet undone by one brief encounter with a new star, it reminds us that endurance does not mean invulnerability. Even the ancient can be delicate, even the strong can be fleeting. Yet its breaking apart was not an ending without meaning. As it fractured, 3I Atlas revealed its hidden interior. For scientists, this was precious. The gases released told us about its composition ices, formed in some distant nursery of stars, preserved until this moment. Dust grains scattered into space, carrying with them records of chemistry from another system. In breaking, it gave us knowledge, In dissolving, it offered a glimpse of its origin. Think of the image, a glowing cluster of fragments trailing a luminous tail, stretched out across the blackness of space. It is not ruin, but transformation. The traveler did not vanish. It became many, scattering pieces of itself like seeds into the solar wind. Somewhere, those particles may drift for centuries, joining the interplanetary dust that glows faintly as zodiacal light in Earth's skies. In a way, 3I Atlas has left part of itself with us, a faint fingerprint of its passage. This fragility also deepens the metaphor. We too carry journeys that test us. We endure long seasons of cold or silence, and then suddenly we are thrust into heat, into challenge, into change. Sometimes we break a little, but breaking can reveal what is inside. Breaking can be transformation. In this sense, 3I Atlas was not a failure, it was a teacher. Cultures throughout history have seen comets as omens, their fragility a mirror of human life. Bright one moment, gone the next, they remind us of impermanence. Ancient Chinese astronomers called them broom stars, sweeping the sky clean. In medieval Europe, comets were thought to herald change, sometimes feared, sometimes revered. In truth, their fleeting brilliance is not curse, but lesson beauty need not last to matter. Imagine watching 3I Atlas through a telescope as it broke apart. One night, it is a single point of light with a faint tail. The next, it is stretched, elongated, a smear against the stars. Soon, it is many small fragments scattering, like sparks from a fire fading into the night. Each fragment, once part of a whole, now travels on its own, destined to vanish from view. The story of the visitor becomes the story of disappearance, and yet the memory lingers, written in data, in images, in awe. There is also quiet comfort in knowing that this breaking apart is natural. Many comets do not survive their first close approach to the Sunday. Some plunge directly into its light, evaporating completely. Others fragment slowly, scattering their dust across orbits that may later become meteor showers on Earth. The skies we watch, the shooting stars that delight us, are often the remains of such fragile travelers. In their loss, they give us beauty. So perhaps it is fitting that 3I Atlas, a wanderer from another star, should meet such a fate. It came to us whole, and it left us in pieces, but in those pieces, it gave us a gift, knowledge, wonder, and a reminder of the fragility of all things. The story of 3I Atlas breaking apart is not one of tragedy. It is one of transformation, of revelation, of beauty in impermanence. Just as snowflakes melt, just as leaves fall, just as stars themselves eventually fade, so too do comets change, and in that change lies the deepest comfort. Nothing lasts, yet everything matters. So tonight, let the memory of this fragile visitor be your lullaby. Let its breaking apart remind you that even endings can hold grace, that even in dissolution there can be meaning, and that, like 3I Atlas, we're all travelers, fragile, fleeting, yet luminous along the way. When astronomers look at an object like 3I Atlas, they are not only curious about its motion through the sky, they want to know what it is made of, what secrets lie within its frozen body, what stories are locked in its dust and ice. For in the composition of such a traveler lies a record of its origin, a chemical memory of the place and time where it was born. Comets, whether from our solar system or beyond, are sometimes described as dirty snowballs, mixtures of ice, rock, and dust fused together in the cold outer reaches of star systems. Yet this phrase hardly captures their delicacy. The ice is not just water, but a cocktail of frozen gases: carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, methane, ammonia. The dust is not just rock, but grains rich in silicates, carbon compounds, and sometimes even the precursors of life itself. Each comet is a kind of time capsule, preserving material unchanged since the dawn of its parent system. For 3I Atlas, this meant that when it neared the Sun and began to break apart, it revealed glimpses of what lay inside. As the ice vaporized, astronomers detected faint chemical signatures in the gas it released. Spectra rainbows of light, stretched into lines, showed water, carbon-based compounds, and possibly other frozen molecules. These were the fingerprints of a star system far away, a system we may never see, but whose chemistry echoed through this small visitor. Think of it this way: when you hold a snowflake, you are touching something shaped by air, temperature, and humidity. It is unique, fragile, and fleeting. In the same way, when we observe a comet, we are touching, with our instruments, the conditions of its birthplace. The molecules inside 3I Atlas were shaped by the environment of another sun, perhaps around planets we will never know. They are whispers from a distant world. The dust released by 3I Atlas added another layer of knowledge. Dust grains are small, but they scatter light in particular ways. By studying the brightness and color of the debris, astronomers inferred particle sizes, compositions, and structures. Some grains reflected light strongly, others absorbed it, painting a complex picture of its inner makeup. In breaking apart, the comet became a laboratory in the sky, its secrets carried outward by sunlight. But beyond science, there is poetry in this composition. Imagine the inside of 3I Atlas layers of ice, fractured by heat, laced with pockets of frozen gas. Imagine dust grains older than Earth itself, still clinging together, still carrying the memory of the star where they first formed. Imagine molecules that, in another place and time, might have joined with water and warmth to create life. To look inside is to see not just chemistry, but possibility. We must also consider fragility. The same composition that makes comets rich in secrets also makes them vulnerable. Their ices sublimate easily, their dust disperses quickly, their cores crack under pressure. They are not monuments of stone, but sculptures of frost, delicate, impermanent, shaped as much by absence as by presence. And yet, this delicacy is what makes them precious. If they were indestructible, they would never reveal what lies within. It is in their breaking that their truths emerge. Cultures have long associated the composition of comets with mystery. In some traditions, they were thought to carry fire. In others, poison. Their glowing tails, fed by dust and gas, seemed otherworldly. Today, we know that the glow is simply sunlight reflecting and scattering through tiny particles, and yet the effect remains magical. To look at a comet's tail is to see the very breadth of its composition, made visible across millions of miles. Imagine, for a moment, being close to 3I Atlas as it released its gases. You would see jets spraying outward, shimmering in sunlight, carving patterns in the coma, the halo around its nucleus. You would smell faint traces of ammonia, carbon dioxide, perhaps even the faint scent of alcohols, aromas of chemistry far from Earth. The particles would glitter as they dispersed, carried by solar wind into a tail stretching millions of miles behind. You would be watching the comet shed its essence, dissolving its past into the present. And what of the fragments that drifted outward? Some were likely too small to track, too faint to see. Yet each one carried part of the original whole dust grains, ice crystals, frozen molecules. They are still out there, somewhere, invisible specks gliding between planets. In this way, 3I Atlas continues its journey, not as one, but as many. Its composition has scattered, but not vanished. It has joined the larger story of interplanetary dust, of cosmic particles that drift through the solar system like quiet messengers. For those lying awake under the night sky, there is comfort in this thought, that the air you breathe, the dust that settles on your windowsill, may once have been part of a comet, that the molecules in your body, The carbon in your cells, the water in your veins, may once have drifted through space, carried by objects like 3i Atlas. We are not separate from these wanderers. We are kin. So as you rest tonight, imagine the inside of 3i Atlas, not as cold or empty, but as full as a library of chemistry, as a seed of possibility, as a fragment of a distant star's story. Imagine those molecules drifting outward, scattering like whispers across the sky, some lost to darkness, some falling into new worlds, some perhaps, one day, becoming part of life again. The composition of 3i Atlas is not just science, it is song. A song written in ice and dust, in molecules and light. A song that traveled across interstellar space to be heard here, just once, before fading again. And in that song, we hear not only the voice of a comet, but the voice of the cosmos itself, reminding us that we, too, are made of stardust, fragile yet luminous, fleeting yet meaningful. When we look at a comet through a telescope, we see more than just a glowing smudge against the blackness of space. We see light reflected, scattered, and transformed by dust and gas. And light, though silent, carries messages. Hidden within every glimmer are codes that astronomers can read, unlocking secrets of distance, composition, and motion. For 3i Atlas, these spectral messages became our best window into the story of a visitor from beyond. Light may seem simple to our eyes, but in truth, it is layered. A comet shines in two ways, by reflecting sunlight from its icy nucleus and by glowing faintly with its own emissions, as gases released by heat interact with radiation. By splitting that light into a spectrum, a rainbow stretched thin through prisms or spectrographs, astronomers can trace each ingredient like a fingerprint. Every atom, every molecule, leaves its own mark, a line, a color, a signature. When 3i Atlas approached the Sun, observers quickly noticed changes in its light. At first it was faint, little more than a speck. But as heat began to awaken its ices, the coma swelled, and its spectrum bloomed. Narrow lines appeared, corresponding to water vapor, to carbon-based molecules, to faint traces of cyanogen. These were not random. They were whispers from within, messages carried across millions of miles, telling us what had been locked away for eons. Each emission line was a kind of story. Hydrogen lines, bright in ultraviolet, spoke of water molecules torn apart by sunlight. Carbon compounds revealed chemistry older than Earth itself, forged perhaps in the cradle of another star. Sodium, faint but present, gave a golden tinge to parts of its spectrum, a reminder that even small impurities shine under the right conditions. To read the light of 3i Atlas was to read the language of matter itself, spoken across interstellar space. But light also revealed motion. By measuring shifts in spectral lines, the Doppler effect, astronomers could see whether the comet was moving toward us or away. Each tiny shift in wavelength corresponded to speed. For 3i Atlas, the data confirmed what its trajectory suggested: it was not bound, not circling back. Its spectral lines slid steadily, showing it was racing outward, leaving us behind, carrying its messages with it into the dark. And yet, even in fading, there was beauty. For brief nights, its tail shimmered, stretching faintly across the sky, its dust scattering sunlight into a soft glow. Through telescopes, the tail revealed subtle hues, blue from ionized gases, golden from dust, reflecting sunbeams. To see such colors was to be reminded that light is not static. It is motion, transformation, the universe speaking in wavelengths. Culturally, humanity has long read messages in light. Ancient sky watchers studied the colors of dawn and dusk, seeing omens in red skies or pale moons. Comets, glowing mysteriously, were feared as fiery swords or luminous messengers. Today, our instruments are sharper, but the impulse is the same to find meaning in light. When we split the glow of a comet into a spectrum, we are not so different from those who gazed upward millennia ago. We are still listening, still searching for messages written in the sky. The spectrum of 3I Atlas also carried philosophical weight. It told us that matter is universal. The same hydrogen that glows in distant galaxies glowed in its vapor. The same carbon that forms diamonds and life here appeared in its dust. The same oxygen we breathe shone in its emissions. This was not alien chemistry. It was familiar, kin to our own, reminding us that across light years of separation, the building blocks of existence are shared. Imagine yourself now, standing under a quiet night sky with a prism in hand. You catch the faint glow of the comet, barely visible. The prism bends the light, stretching it into delicate colors. Within the rainbow are lines thin, sharp, each marking an element, each telling a part of the story. It is as if the comet is writing across the sky, not in words, but in colors. You read not with eyes alone, but with imagination, letting each hue whisper of distant suns, ancient chemistry, and journeys across eternity. There is comfort in this act of reading light. It requires patience, attention, quietness, the very qualities that invite rest. Just as you cannot rush a spectrum, you cannot rush sleep. Both unfold gently, revealing their truths when you are ready. Even after 3I Atlas had faded, its light lingered in memory, preserved in data, in graphs and spectra captured by observatories around the world. These records are like lullabies, written in numbers, traces of a voice we heard only once. Long after the comet itself is gone, its spectral messages remain, reminding us that even brief visitors can leave lasting echoes. So tonight, let the light of 3I Atlas be your lullaby. Imagine its spectrum stretched across the sky, each color a note, each line a word, each glow a whisper. Let those messages remind you that the universe speaks softly, not always in thunder or storm, but in fragile light carried across the dark. And let that softness carry you, too, into the quiet spectrum of dreams. For all the data, the spectra, the images, and the careful calculations, 3I Atlas remains, in many ways, a mystery. Science has given us glimpses its path, its fragments, its fleeting chemistry, but beyond those details lies a vast silence. What we do not know about the visitor may be just as important as what we have learned. And perhaps that is the most soothing truth of all. The cosmos does not reveal everything at once. It leaves us space for wonder. One of the first questions still unanswered is its origin. From which star did it come? Was it born in a system like ours, with planets and comets circling in orderly rhythms? Or was it thrown out from chaos? Perhaps during the early violent formation of another planetary family. Its trajectory tells us it is interstellar, but when traced backward across the sky, its line vanishes into uncertainty. Gravity bends paths, small forces accumulate, and soon its birthplace is lost in the haze of time. To imagine its home is to imagine a world we may never see. Another mystery lies in its composition. We detected water, carbon compounds, dust, but these are only hints. How much of it was rock? How much was ice? Did it carry organic molecules in abundance, like some of our own comets, or was it barren, stripped of richness by time? Its fragmentation robbed us of certainty. We saw only pieces, fleeting emissions, fragments of data. The core itself may remain unknowable, a secret it carried across the stars, revealed only briefly and incompletely. There are even questions of its nature. Was 3I Atlas truly a comet, or something stranger? Some interstellar visitors, like Oumuamua before it, challenged our definitions too elongated, too reflective, too unusual. Atlas, with its breaking apart, fit more neatly into the cometary family, but still left traces of strangeness. Its brightness rose oddly fast, its debris scattered unpredictably. Was it unusually fragile, or were we simply seeing an unfamiliar type of body? In its fleeting presence, it refused to be fully defined. And then there are deeper mysteries, questions that move beyond science into philosophy. How many such objects wander the galaxy, unseen? If 3 have passed through our gaze in just a handful of years, how many slip by, unnoticed, dark, faint, invisible? Are we surrounded by silent travelers, each carrying stories of other stars, crossing the paths of suns without ever being observed? The thought is not frightening, but gentle, a reminder that the cosmos is alive with motion, even when we cannot see it. Mystery also clings to its fate. We know the trajectory it entered, bent, and will leave, returning to interstellar night. But where will it go? Will it wander into another system millions of years from now, surprising another world with its sudden glow? Will it drift forever in darkness, fragments slowly dispersing into the dust of the galaxy? The answer is unknowable, and yet that unknowing carries its own peace. The comet's journey continues, whether or not we watch. There are even whimsical mysteries, questions people quietly ask, even if scientists do not. Could such an object carry traces of life? Could microbes, frozen in ice, survive across interstellar time? Could molecules scattered from other suns one day take root in new places? Science has no firm answer, but imagination lingers. Perhaps that is enough. For in the quiet of night, as we gaze at the stars, it is the possibility that nourishes wonder. To not know is not failure, it is invitation. 3i Atlas teaches us that the universe does not hand us complete stories. It offers fragments, glimpses, shadows, and asks us to imagine the rest. It is like a lullaby sung half in words, half in silence, where the unspoken carries as much comfort as the spoken. Imagine lying beneath the night sky, thinking of 3i Atlas. You picture it as a glowing fragment, trailing dust, slipping past the Sunday, yet much of it remains unseen. You cannot know where it came from. You cannot know where it goes, but you can feel its presence. That feeling, the awe of the unknown, is as real as any fact. It softens the mind, loosens thought, and reminds you that it is okay not to have every answer. So tonight, let the shadows of mystery be gentle companions. Let the unanswered questions surround you like a soft fog, not to frighten, but to soothe. Let the unknown remind you that life, like the cosmos, is not a puzzle to be fully solved, but a song to be heard, even when not every note is clear. The story of 3i Atlas is not only about what we discovered, it is also about what we still do not know. And in that unknowing, there is space. Space for imagination, space for wonder, space for rest. Sleep now with the comfort of mystery. The stars above are vast, their stories endless, and not every secret is meant to be revealed. Some are meant to drift quietly, like interstellar travelers, carrying questions instead of answers, and reminding us that peace can be found in not knowing. When we speak of interstellar visitors, 3i Atlas does not stand alone. It is the third member of a small but extraordinary family, a family that reminds us the galaxy is not silent, but interconnected, its fragments passing from one star to another. Before Atlas, there were 2 other travelers that awakened our imagination. 1, Oumuamua, and 2, Borisov. Together, these 3 form a story not of isolation, but of pattern, of continuity, of glimpses into the greater cosmos. Oumuamua came first. In 2017, astronomers in Hawaii spotted a strange, elongated object moving too fast, on too open a path, to be bound to the Sunday. It was the first confirmed interstellar visitor ever seen. Its name, chosen from the Hawaiian language, means scout or messenger from afar. And indeed, it seemed like a messenger of mystery. Unlike a comet, it showed no clear tail. Unlike an asteroid, it shone with odd variations in brightness, as though it were tumbling end over end. Its shape was unlike anything we had seen. Long, narrow, perhaps cigar-like, perhaps pancake-flat. The debate still lingers. Was it icy, rocky, metallic? Was it natural, or could it be something more Oumuamua slipped away before answers could come, leaving behind questions as enduring as its passage? 2 years later, in 2019, came 2I Borisov. Unlike the enigmatic Oumuamua, Borisov was more familiar. It looked and behaved like a comet, complete with a tail of dust and gas, a halo of vapor, and chemistry we could measure. Discovered by an amateur astronomer in Crimea, Borisov confirmed that interstellar comets exist, that icy wanderers do drift between stars, carrying with them the frozen memories of other systems. For scientists, it was a gift, a visitor that could be studied in detail, revealing not only water and carbon compounds, but also structures remarkably similar to comets born in our own solar system. It was as if the universe were saying, "See, you are not alone. What you have here exists elsewhere too." And then, in 2020, came 3I Atlas. It seemed to echo both of its predecessors. Like Oumuamua, its trajectory was hyperbolic, its origin interstellar. Like Borisov, it showed cometary behavior, outgassing, brightening, fragmenting. But it also carried its own uniqueness, a fragility that caused it to break apart before our eyes, scattering into pieces before it could make its closest approach to Earth. In this way, Atlas was both confirmation and reminder. Confirmation that interstellar visitors are real and varied. Reminder that they are fleeting, fragile, and not easily understood. Comparing these three gives us perspective. Oumuamua showed us mystery, an object that did not behave like anything we knew. Borisov showed us similarity, an interstellar comet that felt comfortingly familiar. Atlas showed us fragility, an interstellar traveler undone by the sun's warmth. Together, they suggest that the galaxy is rich with variety, that no two visitors will ever be quite the same. Each brings its own lesson, its own whisper of distant origins. Science, of course, seeks to categorize. Were these objects icy or rocky? Were they fragments of shattered worlds or leftovers from planetary formation? How common are they? The early estimate, based on these detections, is astonishing. There may be billions of such objects drifting through the galaxy at any time, invisible, until chance brings them close to a star. We see only the tiniest fraction, the ones that cross our small circle of observation. The rest slip by in silence, unseen but real. But beyond science, there is poetry in their sequence. 3 arrivals in just a few short years after millennia of none. It feels almost like a story told in chapters. First, the messenger. Then, the confirmation. Then, the fragile gift. Each arrival reminding us that our solar system is not closed, that we live in a universe of exchange where fragments of distant worlds wander freely, brushing against one another, sharing their presence. Imagine standing at night, looking up and picturing the 3. Oumuamua, long and tumbling, slipping silently through the stars. Borisov, glowing with a faint tail, dust scattering in sunlight. Atlas, breaking apart, fragments sparkling briefly before fading. 3 visitors, 3 stories, 3 reminders that the cosmos is alive with motion. There is humility in such comparisons. We are not the center of the universe, not its only story. Our sun is one of billions, our comets one of countless others. The visitors show us that what we have here is mirrored elsewhere. They remind us that the same physics, the same chemistry, The same building blocks of life extend beyond the horizon of our skies. We are not isolated. We are connected by matter itself. Culturally, too, such comparisons resonate. In myths, messengers arrive in threes, each bringing a different gift: mystery, knowledge, fragility. In dreams, patterns of three often symbolize balance, completion, wholeness. Perhaps, unconsciously, we feel the same about our interstellar visitors. The first startled us, the second reassured us, the third humbled us. Together, they form a triad of meaning, not imposed but felt, as though the universe itself had spoken in sequence. The stories of these visitors also remind us of impermanence. Oumuamua is gone, too faint ever to see again. Borisov has left, its tail dissolved into the dark. Atlas broke apart, scattering fragments into space. Each came briefly, each left quickly. Their presence was fleeting, but their impact enduring. Like dreams, they touched us for a moment, then vanished, leaving only memory and wonder. As you rest tonight, let yourself drift among them. Picture Oumuamua, tumbling endlessly, a messenger still on its journey. Picture Borisov glowing softly, carrying frozen secrets from its birth system. Picture Atlas, dissolving into fragments, scattering seeds of chemistry across the solar wind. 3 travelers, 3 voices, 3 lullabies sung by the galaxy. Let their stories remind you that the universe is larger than fear, richer than certainty, and filled with connections unseen. The comparison of these visitors does not give us final answers. It gives us perspective. We are part of a galaxy, alive with motion, touched by wanderers that remind us of kinship beyond borders. To know them, even briefly, is to feel less alone. To imagine them is to feel comforted by the thought that the cosmos is not empty, but full of stories still unfolding. So sleep now, under a sky shared with messengers. Their journeys continue, and so does ours. And in their passing, we are reminded that every visitor, however brief, leaves light enough to guide us into rest. The 3 visitors, Oumuamua, Borisov, and Atlas, did more than surprise us. They became teachers. Each one, in its brief appearance, offered lessons about the cosmos, about what lies beyond our sun, about how matter travels, about how the universe is stitched together by unseen threads. Though they stayed only for moments in astronomical terms, the knowledge they left behind continues to unfold, like echoes that linger long after the sound has faded. The first lesson is that we are not alone in material form. The galaxy is full of debris comets, asteroids, icy fragments that do not belong to any single star but wander between them. Before Oumuamua, this was a theory. After its discovery, it became fact. The confirmation was profound. Interstellar space is not empty. It is filled with travelers, some ancient, some newly cast adrift, all part of the galaxy's great circulation of matter. We may never see most of them, but their presence means that every star system is part of a larger, connected whole. The second lesson is that variety is the rule. Oumuamua behaved unlike any comet we had ever seen, showing no obvious tail, yet speeding away as if pushed by unseen forces. Borisov, by contrast, looked familiar, releasing water and carbon dioxide, just like our own icy comets. Atlas combined elements of both familiar in its comet-like activity, yet fragile enough to fall apart before reaching its closest point to the Sunday. These differences remind us that creation does not follow a single script. The galaxy is diverse. No 2 visitors will ever be exactly the same. The third lesson is about fragility. We tend to think of space as a realm of permanence, stars burning for billions of years, planets circling endlessly, galaxies wheeling in immense spirals. But comets remind us that not everything lasts. They are delicate, their ice is prone to melting, their dust easily scattered, their bodies vulnerable to heat and stress. 3IATLAS, breaking apart before our eyes, showed us that even objects that have survived untold ages can dissolve in moments. Fragility is not weakness. It is part of the rhythm of existence. The fourth lesson is about origins. Every interstellar visitor carries a chemical fingerprint of the system where it was born. Water molecules, carbon chains, traces of frozen gases, they are relics of another sun's nursery, preserved across light years. When Borisov's gases were studied, they revealed a composition strikingly similar to comets from our own system. This told us something profound. The processes that shape worlds are not unique to Earth or the Sunday. They happen everywhere. The galaxy shares a chemistry, a set of building blocks, a continuity of creation. The fifth lesson is about humility. Each visitor came unannounced. No telescope predicted them. No forecast prepared us. They arrived suddenly, lingered briefly, and vanished again. In their passing, they reminded us that we do not control the sky. We can observe, we can measure, but we cannot command. The universe is larger than us, older than us, and filled with surprises. To live under such a sky is to be humbled, and in that humility there is peace. The sixth lesson is about imagination. Oumuamua, especially, stirred speculation. Was it natural, or could it be something else? A shard of rock, or an artifact of technology? Though most scientists lean toward natural explanations, the debate itself opened space for wonder. The visitors invite us not only to measure, but also to dream. They remind us that science and imagination are not enemies, but partners, each expanding our sense of what might be. The seventh lesson is about connection. The dust of Borisov, the fragments of Atlas, may still be drifting in our solar system, tiny particles joining the interplanetary haze. To think that matter from another star system now mingles with ours is to feel kinship across distance. Just as winds carry seeds across continents, the galaxy carries fragments across stars. In this exchange, we are reminded that no world is isolated and that life itself may owe its beginnings to such interstellar sharing. The eighth lesson is about time. The journeys of these wanderers are measured not in years, but in millennia, perhaps even eons. They have traveled longer than civilizations, longer than continents have stood in their current forms. To glimpse them is to step outside our human scale and touch something larger, older, more enduring. And yet, in their fragility, they remind us that even the ancient can change, even the eternal can dissolve. Time is both vast and fleeting. The ninth lesson is about beauty. Each visitor, in its own way, was luminous. Oumuamua's tumbling light, Borisov's glowing tail, Atlas's fragments scattering like sparks. These were not only scientific events, they were spectacles of nature, art written in dust and light. To watch them was to feel awe, not only at their rarity, but at their grace. Beauty is not confined to Earth. It is woven into the cosmos itself. The final lesson may be the simplest to pay attention. The universe is full of quiet wonders, but they reveal themselves only to those who look. Oumuamua, Borisov, and Atlas were visible only briefly, and only because astronomers were watching. How many others have slipped by unseen? How many more will pass before our instruments catch their glow? The visitors remind us that awareness is a kind of gift, that wonder comes to those who are present. Imagine now drifting with these lessons in mind. You see Oumuamua tumbling silently, its shape still uncertain. You see Borisov glowing softly, its tail trailing behind, dust scattering into darkness. You see Atlas breaking apart, fragments shining faintly as they scatter into the solar wind. Each carries not just matter, but meaning. Each is a teacher, quiet, brief, but unforgettable. And as you close your eyes tonight, let those lessons be gentle companions. Let them remind you that fragility can be strength, that difference is beauty, that humility is wisdom, and that attention is wonder. The wanderers from beyond may be gone, but their teachings remain echoes, written not in words, but in light and silence, carrying us softly into dreams. When news of 3I Atlas reached the public, the reactions were not only of wonder. Alongside the fascination came fear. Words like terrifying, apocalyptic, and worst-case scenario appeared in headlines, not because the science demanded it, but because imagination fills the spaces that facts leave open. Why is it that when we hear of a visitor from beyond the stars, our minds leap not only to curiosity, but also to catastrophe? Part of the answer lies in the unknown. The universe is vast, and interstellar visitors are rare. With rarity comes mystery, and with mystery comes uncertainty. Our minds are built to fill gaps. When we cannot know precisely what an object is, we imagine what it could be. Sometimes, those imaginings are hopeful. Perhaps the object carries secrets of life. Other times, they are fearful. Perhaps it hides danger, collision, or destruction. Uncertainty is fertile soil for both awe and dread. Another reason is history. For centuries, comets were seen as omens. Their sudden appearance in ancient skies, unannounced and unexplained, stirred dread. Records from China, Europe, and the Middle East describe comets as harbingers of war, famine, or the fall of kings. Even when we understood them as icy bodies, not divine messengers, the association with fear lingered. The idea that a comet or asteroid could threaten life on Earth became embedded in our cultural imagination. 3I Atlas, though fragile and unthreatening in reality, carried that old shadow. Science, too, has given us reasons to imagine danger. We know now that impacts have shaped Earth's history. 66 million years ago, an asteroid strike ended the age of the dinosaurs, changing the course of evolution. Smaller impacts have scarred landscapes, lit skies, and reminded us that space is not always peaceful. When we hear of a new object, especially one from beyond our system, it is natural to wonder, could this be another? Could it collide? Could it destroy? Could it alter everything? The facts may say no, but the imagination lingers. Yet fear is not only about collision. Sometimes it is about strangeness itself. Oumuamua, with its unusual shape and motion, inspired speculation that it might be artificial, a probe from another civilization. While most scientists see natural explanations, the idea of contact, even imagined, stirs unease. What if we are not alone? What if visitors are not merely comets, but messages or machines? In these questions lies both excitement and dread, woven together in the human psyche. But alongside fear is wonder. For every headline that spoke of doom, there were voices that spoke of beauty, of tales glowing in the night sky, of fragments scattering like jewels, of chemistry carried across light years. Wonder and fear are twins, born of the same root, our encounter with the unknown. One looks at the mystery and sees danger. The other looks and sees possibility. Both are natural. Both remind us that we are awake beneath a sky that still surprises us. Why then do we imagine the worst to purse? Because it helps us prepare. Worst-case scenarios, even exaggerated ones, force us to consider resilience. If one day a larger object does approach Earth, our imagination will already have rehearsed the possibilities. In this way, fear becomes a tool, a way of mentally practicing survival. Even when misplaced, it reflects a deep instinct to protect, to endure. Yet in the quiet of night, when facts settle and imagination softens, the fear gives way to something gentler. We realize that 3I Atlas was never a threat. Its path carried it safely past. Its fragments dissolved before reaching us. It was not an omen of doom, but a reminder of connection. The worst-case scenario existed only in our minds, and that too is instructive. The human imagination is powerful enough to build stories more dramatic than reality. Think of it this way: fear and wonder are both lullabies, sung in different keys. Fear is restless, full of sharp notes, urging vigilance. Wonder is soft, full of gentle tones, inviting calm. Both lullabies tell us that we are small, that we live under a vast and mysterious sky. The difference lies in whether we hear menace or beauty in that vastness. Imagine lying in bed, hearing news of a visitor from another star. At first, your heart quickens. You picture fire in the skies, impacts, catastrophe. But then you breathe. You remember the facts. The object is fragile, breaking apart, harmless. You remember the beauty, its dust scattering in sunlight, its fragments glowing faintly, its path a graceful arc across the heavens. The fear fades, replaced by awe. The same sky that seemed threatening now seems tender, alive not with danger, but with wonder. Cultures have always balanced these two responses. Myths turned comets into warnings, but also into guides. Poets wrote of their terror, but also their beauty. Astronomers feared their unpredictability, but also delighted in their mystery. Fear and wonder are not opposites, they are companions. Each heightens the other. We fear because we care. We wonder because we are open. Together, they remind us that the unknown is powerful. So what lesson does 3 Ayatlas leave us? That our fears may be real, but they are not the whole story. That the unknown can be terrifying, but also soothing. That to imagine the worst is natural, but to remember the wonder is just as important. Fear sharpens us, but wonder sustains us. Together, they keep us awake to the sky. As you drift towards sleep tonight, let both voices be gentle. Let fear remind you that life is precious, fragile, worth protecting. Let wonder remind you that life is also beautiful, surprising, worth savoring. Between the two, you will find balance, as ancient as the stars, as soft as the lullaby of the cosmos. The worst-case scenario may haunt headlines, but the true story of 3 Ayatlas is not of doom. It is of a visitor that traveled across light years to remind us that we are part of a greater whole. To imagine the worst is human. To rest in wonder is divine. And in that resting, we find peace. Every object in the universe moves, carried by the invisible hand of gravity. Planets circle stars, moons circle planets, comets loop through systems, and even stars themselves orbit the centers of galaxies. This constant dance is quiet, elegant, and governed by laws as old as creation itself. To understand 3 Ayatlas, or any interstellar visitor, we must turn to the science of orbits and paths, the geometry of motion that reveals where objects come from and where they will go. At its heart, orbital science is about curves. Gravity bends straight lines into arcs. Throw a stone on Earth, and gravity curves its path downward. Launch a satellite into space, and gravity bends it into a circle around the planet. The Sun, vast in its pull, bends comets and asteroids into ellipses, binding them into families of orbits. But sometimes, the curve is not closed. Sometimes, it is open, like a doorway leading outward. This was the case with 3 Ayatlas. Its path was hyperbolic, not elliptical. It did not belong to the Sunday. It came, it bent, and it left. Hyperbolic orbits are the signatures of interstellar travelers. They reveal an object that is unbound, carrying more speed than gravity can capture. When astronomers traced the path of Atlas, they saw this unmistakable curve. No matter how far they projected forward, the line never closed. The comet was a guest, not a resident. Its visit was temporary, its freedom eternal. To calculate such paths, scientists measure positions night after night, charting how an object shifts against background stars. From these shifts, they calculate velocity and acceleration, plotting curves with exquisite precision. Even the faintest dot of light, tracked carefully, becomes a story of motion. In the case of 3I Atlas, the story was clear: it was moving too fast to stay, its path too sharp to bind. It was only passing through. But the story of orbits is not only about mathematics, it is about perspective. Imagine watching the solar system from far above, as though it were a clock. Planets spin in circles around the sun, each on its own track, like gears meshing in harmony. Into this clockwork comes Atlas, not aligned, not ordered, but tilted and swift. Its path slices across the plane, arcs around, and departs. For a moment, it is part of the dance. Then it vanishes again, leaving the clock undisturbed. Why does this matter? Because paths reveal origins. A hyperbolic orbit tells us that an object was not born here. The angle of its approach suggests where in the galaxy it may have come from. Its speed hints at the forces that cast it outward long ago. While we may never pinpoint the exact star, we can know the difference between what is native and what is foreign. Orbits are cosmic passports, stamped with histories written in curves. Atlas also showed us fragility within its path. Unlike a planet, solid and enduring, a comet's orbit can be altered by small forces, jets of gas pushing as it sublimates, fragments scattering and changing momentum. These subtle pressures can shift a path by just enough to change its story. Astronomers factored these effects into their models, watching how the object's disintegration influenced its trajectory. Even in motion, fragility leaves a mark. The science of orbits also brings comfort. With precise measurements, astronomers can predict paths centuries, even millennia, into the future. For Earth, this means safety. By tracking asteroids and comets, we know which ones may approach, which ones will miss, which ones might someday pose a threat. In the case of Atlas, the calculations reassured us its path carried no danger. Its fragments were too faint, too scattered to harm. Its orbit was a graceful bow, not a collision course. There is poetry in these paths. Every orbit is a line of story, drawn across the black canvas of space. Some are tight circles, steady and familiar. Some are long ellipses, patient returns after centuries. Some, like Atlas, are open arcs, fleeting signatures of passage. Together, they form a cosmic calligraphy, curves written in dust and gravity, beauty visible only to those who look. Imagine lying on your back beneath the stars, tracing invisible lines above you. Each star has its own world, its own comets, its own fragments drifting outward. Some of those fragments, after eons, may wander near us, just as Atlas did. Their paths are not random. They are the handwriting of the universe, shaped by gravity, time, and chance. To see them is to glimpse the order beneath the mystery. Even the word orbit carries comfort. It suggests steadiness, rhythm, cycles that return. But Atlas reminds us that not all paths are circles. Some are journeys without return, wanderings across the galaxy. To know this is to know both security and freedom. Some things stay, some things go. Both are part of the same cosmic design. The science of orbits and paths is not dry calculation. It is meditation on motion itself. Every curve reveals connection. Every trajectory reveals history. And every visitor reminds us that we, too, are moving. Earth circles the sun. The sun drifts around the Milky Way, and the galaxy itself sails through the larger cosmos. We are all travelers, each on our own path, each orbiting, bending, and continuing outward. So tonight, As you rest, imagine yourself following the curve of 3 Atlas. You drift inward, pulled gently by the sun, bend in a graceful arc, then slip outward again, carried into the night. There is no rush, no fear, only motion, steady and serene. The path is open, infinite, unbound, and in that open orbit, you find peace. Every comet is a messenger from the past, but an interstellar comet like 3I Atlas is more than that. It is a time capsule, a sealed vessel carrying with it the chemistry, the dust, and the frozen whispers of a place and a time far removed from our own. To observe it is to touch history not only older than humanity, not only older than Earth, but older than the sun itself. When astronomers studied the gases and dust of Atlas, they recognized familiar ingredients: water vapor, carbon compounds, frozen gases released as the sun's heat awakened its fragile core. These were comforting echoes of our own comets, as though the chemistry of creation is written in the same script across the galaxy. Yet in their details, there was strangeness, 2 ratios slightly different, brightness patterns unpredictable, fragments scattering in ways that hinted at an unfamiliar structure. In these small differences lay the story of its home. To call Atlas a time capsule is not just metaphor. Its ices and dust grains may have formed billions of years ago in the outskirts of another star's protoplanetary disk. Back then, stars were young, planets still forming, collisions frequent. Some fragments were cast outward, exiled into the interstellar dark. Atlas was likely one of those fragments frozen, unaltered, preserved by the cold of space. For eons, it drifted, untouched, carrying with it the conditions of that ancient nursery. Imagine what those grains of dust have seen, though they have no eyes. Stars born and dying in silence, galaxies, drifting in their endless spirals, entire epochs passing unnoticed. All the while, Atlas sailed onward, a small frozen capsule holding within it a memory of beginnings. When it arrived near our sun, it was as if a message in a bottle had washed ashore after drifting across a cosmic ocean. What might it carry? Perhaps clues about the chemistry of its birth star, about the richness of carbon there, about the abundance of water. Perhaps frozen molecules that could, under the right conditions, seed life. Perhaps simply the proof that what we have here is not unique, that our solar system is not the only place where comets form, where icy wanderers are cast into the void. The concept of panspermia, the idea that life's ingredients may travel across the galaxy on comets, finds quiet support in such visitors. If our comets carry amino acids and organic molecules, why not Atlas as well? If fragments of ice and dust can survive the cold of interstellar space, why not also the seeds of chemistry that, under the right warmth and shelter, could one day bloom into life? In this way, Atlas is not only a time capsule, but a seed capsule, scattering possibility across the stars. But even if no living seeds hide within, the symbolism remains. A time capsule is valuable not because it changes the present, but because it connects us to the past. Atlas connected us not only to another star system, but to the truth that we are part of a larger continuity. We are not an isolated story. We are a chapter in a galactic library, one volume among many, each comet a page, each visitor a reminder. There is also humility in this perspective. We often think of ourselves as explorers, sending spacecraft outward, seeking to touch other worlds. But Atlas reminds us that the universe also sends explorers to us. Without effort, without intention, fragments from other systems drift into our skies, offering themselves freely. They are not guided by rockets, but by gravity and chance. They do not carry instruments, but their own bodies are records more ancient than any machine could preserve. In their silence, they are more eloquent than we sometimes realize. Picture now the comet not as fragile debris, but as a chest of treasures, drifting slowly. Inside are ices older than Earth, dust older than the sun, molecules that trace their lineage to the first stirrings of stars. To open that chest, even slightly, is to glimpse the continuity of creation. What we breathe, what we are, is written also in them. To hold their chemistry is to hold kinship. Even as Atlas broke apart, it fulfilled this role. Its fragments scattered like pages torn from a book, each page still carrying words, still carrying meaning. Astronomers, like readers, gathered what they could, piecing together the story from fragments. It was incomplete, yes, but still profound. A time capsule need not be whole to speak. Even shards can carry history. There is comfort in this, for we too are time capsules. Each of us carries within ourselves the record of stars, long dead, the iron forged in supernovae, the carbon formed in stellar cores, the water shaped in ancient cosmic clouds. We are fragments, but we are also history. To see Atlas as a time capsule is to see ourselves reflected fragile, fleeting, yet rich with memory. As you drift into rest tonight, imagine the comet sailing once more into the dark, carrying with it the ancient past of another world. Imagine its fragments joining the interstellar dust, scattering like seeds, whispering stories to any system they may one day pass. Imagine, too, yourself as part of that continuum, your breath a trace of ancient stars, your body a capsule of cosmic memory. 3i Atlas may never return. It may dissolve into nothingness. But its gift is not in permanence. Its gift is in reminding us that every fragment carries history, every traveler carries memory, and every being, no matter how small, is part of the great unfolding story of the cosmos. So tonight, let the thought of Atlas as a time capsule soothe you. Let it remind you that nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed, only carried onward in new forms. The dust of stars becomes comets. The dust of comets becomes planets. The dust of planets becomes life. And life itself, in turn, carries the memory forward. Since the beginning of time, humanity has looked upward. Long before telescopes, before cities, even before writing, our ancestors gazed at the night sky and wondered. The stars were lights without explanation, the moon, a companion, comets, fiery strangers. To watch the sky was to feel both fear and fascination, to search for patterns, to weave stories from silence. And though centuries have passed, though technology has transformed the way we see, the impulse remains the same. We still look up, still listen, still hope to understand. The story of 3i Atlas is not only about the comet itself, but also about us, about how we watch, how we prepare, how we catch fleeting whispers of light in the vast dark. Our instruments may be more advanced than ever before, but the essence is unchanged. We are still creatures beneath the stars, lifting our gaze toward mystery. Consider the telescopes that found Atlas. The system that gave the comet its name, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, was not built to search for interstellar wonders. It was designed to protect us, to scan for near-Earth asteroids that might one day threaten our planet. Each night, its wide-field cameras sweep across the sky, capturing countless stars, galaxies, and asteroids. The data is vast, overwhelming, like an ocean of dots. Yet within that ocean, patterns emerge. Something shifts. A faint speck moves against the backdrop. The gaze of humanity sharpens, and suddenly a traveler is revealed. This is the essence of astronomical watching: patience and attention. The sky is filled with constant stars that seem fixed, constellations that return each season. Against this backdrop, motion is precious. A shifting light becomes a messenger. When 3i Atlas was first noticed, it was just such a shift, almost lost among countless others. Only through careful watching did it become a story. But our gaze is not only mechanical. It is emotional, cultural, human. Throughout history, the way we have looked at the sky has shaped who we are. Ancient navigators steered ships by the stars. Farmers planted crops by the moon's phases. Poets wrote of comets as omens, lovers as stars crossed, philosophers as seekers of heavenly order. The sky was never empty. It was a canvas for meaning. Today, even with satellites and space stations overhead, we feel the same pull. When news of an interstellar visitor spreads, people step outside, lift their heads, and search for a glimpse. The act itself, looking up, is older than any technology. In the case of Atlas, most of us never saw it with the naked eye. It was faint, fragile, dissolving too quickly to blaze across the public sky, and yet we followed its story. We saw images online, read headlines, listened to scientists explain its significance. In this way, the gaze of humanity is collective, even if only a handful of telescopes truly saw. Atlas, the whole world shared in the vision. Watching the skies is no longer an individual act, but a global one, linked by networks, cameras, and shared imagination. What does it mean to watch? It means to care. To track the heavens night after night is to say, the universe matters to us. We are not only concerned with Earth, with survival, with daily tasks. Part of us belongs always to the stars. The gaze upward is an act of humility and of hope. We know we are small, yet we choose to look. We know the universe is vast, yet we search for meaning. There is also comfort in the act of watching. To step outside at night, to tilt the head upward, is to slow down. The stars do not rush. Comets do not hurry. Even interstellar visitors that move swiftly across our system take weeks, months, years to pass. Watching the skies teaches patience. It reminds us that time is larger than us, that cycles of night and day, of seasons, of celestial motion, unfold gently, steadily. In that steadiness, we find calm. Imagine yourself as part of this gaze. You stand in a quiet place, far from noise. Above you, stars scatter across the blackness. Perhaps you hold binoculars, perhaps nothing at all. You know Atlas is there, faint, dissolving, visible only through instruments. But still, you look. You let your eyes trace constellations, your mind drift outward. You feel the connection. People across the world are also looking. Scientists at observatories, children with wide eyes, dreamers with quiet hearts. Together, humanity gazes, and the sky gazes back. The tools may change, but the impulse endures. From Stonehenge to giant radio arrays, from naked eyes to orbiting telescopes, our ways of watching evolve. Yet the essence remains timeless. We seek patterns, we seek stories, we seek ourselves in the stars. And in visitors like Atlas, fleeting and fragile, we find new reasons to keep watching, to keep listening, to keep caring. The story of Atlas is incomplete. Without this truth, its meaning was not only in what it was, but in how we watched it. Without our gaze, it would have been just another fragment, drifting unnoticed. With our gaze, it became a teacher, a time capsule, a reminder. Watching transformed it from debris into meaning. So tonight, let yourself be part of that gaze. Close your eyes and picture humanity looking upward, generation after generation. Picture the first ancestors pointing at comets, fearful yet fascinated. Picture modern astronomers, their screens glowing with faint traces of light. Picture yourself simply breathing under the stars, knowing you are part of this ancient chain. To watch the skies is to belong, to connect, to remember. 3i Atlas may be gone now, but the gaze remains. The skies will always hold more stories, more visitors, more mysteries. Our task is simple: to keep looking, to keep wondering, to keep letting the stars remind us that we are not alone, not isolated, but part of a universe alive with motion. When 3I Atlas passed through our skies, it did more than stir imagination. It raised a tantalizing question: what if we could follow? What if, instead of merely watching from afar, we could send a spacecraft to chase an interstellar visitor, to study it up close, to touch a fragment of another star system? The dream of such a mission is both daunting and inspiring, hovering between possibility and fantasy, a vision that turns science into poetry. To chase a visitor like Atlas, we must first understand the challenge. Interstellar objects move quickly, much faster than typical comets or asteroids bound to the Sunday. Atlas, like Oumuamua before it, traveled at tens of miles per second, far beyond the reach of most current spacecraft. By the time we detect such an object, it is already rushing inward, swinging past the sun, and racing outward again. The window for pursuit is brief, the distance immense, the speed staggering. Yet the dream persists. Scientists have proposed missions like the Interstellar Probe or the Comet Interceptor. These concepts imagine spacecraft waiting in advance, poised in space, ready to launch at a moment's notice when the next visitor is discovered. Instead of chasing from Earth, they would linger at a stable point, conserving fuel, watching the skies. When a comet like Atlas appears, the probe would ignite, slingshot around planets if needed, and race to intercept. What would we gain if we succeeded? Imagine a spacecraft approaching an interstellar visitor. Cameras capture its shape, no longer a faint dot of light, but a world in miniature, icy cliffs, jets of gas, fragments drifting. Instruments sample its chemistry directly, measuring molecules, detecting organics, reading isotopes that tell of a star we may never see. A probe could even release smaller landers, touching its surface, tasting its dust, drilling into its ice. The data would not just be science, it would be history, the first direct contact with matter from another star system. Such a mission would be more than technical achievement. It would be symbolic. For centuries, comets came to us uninvited, and we only watched. To go to them would be to cross a threshold to say that humanity is no longer just a watcher, but a traveler, reaching outward to meet the visitors halfway. In their frozen silence, they have wandered across the galaxy. In our living curiosity, we would answer. But the obstacles remain immense. To catch something like Atlas, we must act quickly. Detection must come earlier. Telescopes must scan wider. Surveys must be sharper. Spacecraft must be fast, agile, capable of enduring years or decades in waiting. The technology exists in fragments, solar sails, nuclear propulsion, gravitational assists, but weaving them together into a working mission requires vision, resources, and will. It is not impossible, but it is not yet within our grasp. And yet, there is beauty in the dream itself. Even if we never launch such a mission, the idea shapes our imagination. It makes us think of interstellar visitors not as unreachable mysteries, but as neighbors we might one day greet. It reminds us that the universe is not beyond us, it is around us, alive with possibilities. There is also comfort in patience. The galaxy is vast, and more visitors will come. Oumuamua, Borisov, Atlas, 3 arrivals in just a few years suggest that such objects are not rare, only faint. With better instruments, more sensitive surveys, we will find them earlier. And when we do, the chance to prepare, to intercept, will grow. The dream may not be fantasy forever. Imagine now a future mission. A spacecraft rests at the edge of the solar system, silent, solar panels folded, instruments asleep. Suddenly, a faint speck is detected, inbound at interstellar speed. Alarms flash, data pours in, and commands awaken the probe. Engines ignite, sails unfurl, momentum builds. Slowly, patiently, it curves onto the visitor's path. Months pass, years perhaps, and then the moment arrives. The probe approaches, cameras open, and for the first time, humanity sees not a smudge of light, but the surface of a traveler from another star. Craters, cliffs, dust, ice, all in sharp relief. For the first time, we touch the untouchable. Even if that day is far, the thought of it soothes. It tells us that our curiosity is alive, that our gaze upward is not idle, but purposeful. To imagine chasing Atlas is to imagine ourselves as part of a larger story, not just watchers, but participants in the cosmic exchange. And there is poetry in the pursuit. We may never catch up with Atlas itself, but perhaps we do not need to. To dream of the chase is already to honor it. To plan missions is to acknowledge that such visitors matter, that they are worth more than headlines, that they carry meaning. In their fleeting arcs, they remind us that time is short, but possibilities are long. As you drift towards sleep tonight, picture the chase. A small spacecraft sails across the dark, fragile yet determined, following a visitor into the night. The engines hum softly, the stars wheel slowly. The comet glows ahead like a lantern. The chase may take years, decades, lifetimes. But in the dream, there is no hurry. There is only motion, steady and serene. The universe is vast, but in the act of pursuit, we are part of it. 3I Atlas has already passed beyond our reach, but the dream of following remains. Perhaps the next visitor will be caught, perhaps the one after. Perhaps it will be in your lifetime, or perhaps in generations to come. Either way, the dream lives on, and in that dream, we find peace. So far, we have only watched the interstellar visitors as they pass tiny streaks of light in our telescopes, faint guests that arrive without warning and depart without pause. But let us imagine something wilder, something bolder. What if we could not only chase such a visitor, but actually catch it? What if a comet, like 3I Atlas, could be slowed, guided, even held, brought into the embrace of our solar system, to study not in fleeting glimpses, but in lasting detail? This is not yet possible, but dreams are allowed to wander. And tonight, as you prepare for rest, let us wander through this vision together. Interstellar objects travel at extraordinary velocities. Oumuamua, the first, rushed past the Sun at nearly 60 miles per second. Borisov followed at a similar pace. Atlas moved no less swiftly. To catch one is like trying to grasp a bird mid-flight while standing still. The moment we notice them, they are already halfway through their journey across our skies. By the time plans are drawn, the visitor is gone. To capture such a traveler, we would need tools beyond what we have now. Some imagine vast sails, thin sheets stretched across space that could use sunlight or even laser beams from Earth to accelerate a spacecraft to the necessary speeds. Others propose gravitational slingshots, using the pull of planets to hurl probes outward, like stones from a sling. A few dream of even more exotic methods: magnetic nets, plasma drags, or gravity well traps. Picture, if you will, a net cast across the heavens, not rope or cord, but an invisible net of gravity, carefully arranged. Imagine spacecraft stationed at different points in space, ready to create fields that bend a visitor's path, slowing it, guiding it, holding it. In science fiction, this is almost effortless. A ship fires beams, a comet halts. In reality, it would be the greatest ballet ever attempted, with physics as music and planets as partners. Even if it lasted only moments, to alter the path of an interstellar visitor would be to say, for once, we did not only watch, we touched. If such a capture were possible, what would it give us? Above all, time. Time to circle the visitor again and again, not just days but years. Time to send landers, drills, Rovers, time to peel back layers of ice and rock, to read a history written long before our sun was born. Each fragment would be a sentence, each isotope a word, each molecule a hint of the nursery where the object formed. Scientists might find organics, complex molecules, maybe even precursors to life. They might measure ratios of elements that differ from ours, proof that chemistry writes its stories differently under another star. They might find dust older than Earth itself, preserved in the deep freeze of interstellar travel. All of this would be possible, if only we could hold the visitor still. Imagine a future where humanity has grown bold in space, with stations circling planets and cities on the moon. In that future, perhaps there is also a museum, not of art or history, but of the cosmos itself. A captured interstellar object rests there, circling safely near Earth or Mars. It is not just a rock, but a relic from beyond, preserved for study and for wonder. Children might look up at it and say that stone has traveled between the stars, and now it travels with us. This is a dream, yes, but every great achievement begins as a dream whispered to the night. Writers have long played with this idea. In novels, fleets deploy nets of plasma to slow comets. In films, harpoons anchor icy mountains, towing them like cargo. In games of imagination, whole civilizations build rings around stars, capturing not only rocks, but entire worlds. These stories are exaggerations, but they plant seeds. Science often grows from such seeds, slowly, carefully, until fiction edges toward fact. For now, capture remains fantasy. But even as fantasy, it soothes. It gives us a sense of possibility, a sense that the universe is not just something we watch passively, but something we may one day touch, guide, shape. It whispers that our relationship with the cosmos is not fixed, that today we look up in wonder, but tomorrow we may reach with gentle hands. And even if that tomorrow never comes, the dream itself is a kind of lullaby. To picture nets cast across stars, ships chasing comets, people standing beneath interstellar relics, it reminds us that curiosity is alive, that imagination stretches as wide as the sky. So as you rest, imagine the capture. A small spacecraft drifts near a comet, engines glowing softly. Harpoons fire, not to wound, but to hold. Nets unfurl, shimmering in sunlight. Slowly, impossibly, the comet's path bends. No longer a wanderer, it circles gently into orbit, tamed but not diminished. Scientists cheer, poets write, children gaze upward. Humanity has held the stars in its hands, if only for a moment. 3i Atlas is gone, beyond our reach, never to return. But in the dream of capture, it still lingers, waiting for us to imagine, to plan, to hope, and in that dream lies comfort. For whether or not we ever catch a comet, the act of imagining shows that we are awake within the universe, listening, watching, daring to reach. Let that thought carry you into sleep tonight, the quiet knowledge that we may never hold the stars, but that dreaming of it is enough to bring peace. When we gaze into the night sky, it is easy to think of it as silent. Stars shimmer, planets drift, and comets streak past in wordless beauty. Yet to scientists, and perhaps to dreamers too, the sky is not silent. It speaks, softly and patiently, in messages written not with ink, but with light, motion, and dust. And among the clearest of these messages are the rare visitors from beyond our solar system, interstellar objects, like 1i Oumuamua, 2i Borisov, and 3i Atlas. They are not accidents. They are letters carried by the universe, drifting across the deep, waiting for us to read. Every interstellar visitor is a sentence in this cosmic language. Its speed tells us how far it has traveled. Its composition whispers of the nursery where it was born. Its path across our skies, sketches, connections between stars. These messages are not written for us, but we can learn to listen. A comet does not intend to communicate, and yet by simply existing, it reveals truths that no book could contain. Imagine holding a pebble from another continent. Already, it speaks of rivers that smoothed it, of mountains that once stood tall. Now expand that thought. Imagine holding a fragment of another star system. That fragment carries a story written not in centuries, but in billions of years. To listen to it is to listen to the universe itself. One message that interstellar visitors carry is impermanence. They remind us that nothing stays still. Stars orbit the galaxy, planets shift, comets are hurled into darkness. The universe is motion, endless and unceasing. Oumuamua passed quickly, Borisov followed, Atlas too, and all slipped away. They did not linger, and they will not return. Their message was not permanence, but transience. And yet, in their transience lies reassurance. Life itself is motion. Seasons change, days turn, generations pass. To see an interstellar visitor is to be reminded, change is not loss. It is the nature of all things. Another message is connection. These travelers prove that the galaxy is not divided into isolated islands, but woven together by motion. A rock ejected from one system can drift into another. Dust formed around a distant star can one day fall into Earth's atmosphere. The universe is not made of separate stories. It is one story, shared across billions of suns. When you see a comet, remember it carries atoms that once circled another star. Those atoms now glimmer in our sky, connect their origin with our present. The boundary between there and here dissolves. We are participants in a galaxy-wide exchange, whether we notice it or not. Interstellar visitors also teach patience. They travel for millions of years before crossing our skies. Their journeys are measured not in human lifetimes, but in epochs. By the time we see them, they have already outlived civilizations, languages, entire species. They carry with them the silence of waiting, the calm of distance. To watch them is to be reminded that not everything must be hurried. Some journeys take longer than we can comprehend, yet they still arrive. So too, perhaps, with our own hopes. How do we read these messages? With science, yes, spectroscopes to measure composition, telescopes to track motion, models to retrace paths. But there is also poetry in the act. A faint smear of light on a CCD sensor becomes a sentence. A curve in an orbit becomes a phrase. Every number is a translation of a story written in dust and ice. And then, when those numbers reach us, we turn them into human meaning. We say, this visitor is ancient. This visitor formed far away. This visitor connects us to another Sunday. In this way, the universe speaks, and we answer. Perhaps the most important message is wonder itself. Interstellar objects remind us that the universe is not exhausted, not mapped fully, not reduced to mere equations. Surprises still come, streaking across our skies. We do not know when the next will arrive, what shape it will have, what story it will tell. But we know it will come, and we know we will watch. This uncertainty is not frightening, it is comforting. It reminds us that discovery is still possible, that mysteries remain. Wonder is a message too, one written in every unexpected comet. Each visitor carries a collective story, but also a personal one. When you watch a comet, the message you hear may not be the same as what scientists publish. For you, it might be memory of childhood nights spent stargazing, of stories whispered about stars, of the comfort of looking upward when the world below feels uncertain. The universe does not write the same sentence for everyone. It writes endlessly, and each of us reads differently. That is part of the gift. In time, perhaps, we will learn to read more deeply. Probes may intercept visitors, bringing back samples. Telescopes may scan their surfaces with clarity, beyond what our eyes can see. One day, we might even find not only ice and rock, but something stranger, something that hints at other possibilities. If that day comes, the message will be louder, clearer, harder to ignore. Until then, even faint whispers are enough. As you prepare for sleep tonight, imagine these visitors as letters drifting across the cosmos. Each comet is an envelope, each asteroid a scroll. They are written not with words, but with chemistry, motion, and light. Some we manage to read, others pass unread, lost in the archive of the sky. Yet together, they form a correspondence between universe and Earth, between stars and us. You do not need to chase them. You do not need to understand every detail. It is enough to lie back, close your eyes, and know the messages exist. They arrive whether you notice or not. They remind you of impermanence, of connection, of patience, of wonder. They remind you that you belong to a story written across the galaxy. So rest now, with the thought that the sky speaks, gently, endlessly, and though its language is strange, its meaning is clear. You are part of something vast, something beautiful, something alive. When a strange light drifts across the night sky, our first reaction is rarely neutral. We feel wonder, yes, but also unease. Our ancestors looked up and saw comets as omens, signs of change or warnings from the gods. Even now, with telescopes and equations, a new interstellar object, like 3I Atlas, does more than spark scientific papers. It stirs something deeper. It awakens the twin emotions that have always shaped our relationship with the unknown: fear and fascination. Fear comes naturally when something unfamiliar appears. We fear what we cannot predict. Interstellar objects fall into this category. They arrive suddenly, without warning, from beyond our solar system. Their shapes are strange, their speeds unusual, their trajectories alien. Unlike comets born of our own sun's gravity, these visitors come from elsewhere, carrying mysteries we have never touched. To ancient people, such appearances felt dangerous. A glowing streak in the sky might mean famine, war, or disaster. Even today, some react with unease. Could a visitor collide with Earth? Could it bring with it materials we do not understand? Fear thrives in uncertainty, and interstellar objects are uncertainty embodied. But fear is only one side. The very same traits that make interstellar objects unsettling also make them captivating. We are drawn to what is rare, to what lies beyond the ordinary. Only 3 confirmed interstellar objects have been observed, passing through our solar system. Each one was a revelation, a puzzle unlike anything seen before. Fascination pulls us closer, urging us to study, to measure, to imagine. What if Oumuamua was more than rock? What if Borisov carried water from another star? What if Atlas hides secrets of chemistry we have never encountered? Each question sparks wonder, and wonder fuels imagination. Together, fear and fascination form a balance. Too much fear, and we turn away, refusing to look. Too much fascination, and we risk forgetting caution. But when held together, they create a kind of focus, sharpening our attention. It is this balance that drives science forward. Curiosity asks, "What is this?" Caution answers, "Be careful." The dialogue between them is where discovery lives. Our reactions to interstellar visitors are mirrors of ourselves. When we fear them, we reveal our vulnerability, our awareness that Earth is small, fragile, and not immune to cosmic forces. When we are fascinated, we reveal our imagination, our desire to connect, to learn, to explore. Both reactions are deeply human, deeply ancient, and deeply intertwined. Think of a child standing at the edge of the sea. The waves are vast, powerful, sometimes frightening. Yet the child cannot look away. She wants to touch the water, to play, to learn. The ocean is both danger and delight. The cosmos is much the same. Fear has value. It keeps us alert. It makes us cautious when caution is necessary. Scientists track asteroids not because they expect catastrophe every day, but because they know impact is possible. Fear sharpens focus, compels preparation, and encourages vigilance. Without it, we might ignore the risks altogether. But fear must not rule. If it becomes the only response, it closes doors instead of opening them. Imagine if astronomers had dismissed Oumuamua as a threat and looked no further. We would have missed the chance to learn, to expand our understanding of interstellar space. Fascination, too, has value. It drives us to wonder, to imagine what lies beyond the next horizon. It makes us build telescopes, write theories, and dream of missions to chase these fleeting visitors. Fascination opens doors where fear closes them. It transforms the unknown from threat to opportunity. Without fascination, fear would paralyze us. Without fear, fascination might make us reckless. Together, they guide us, like two hands steering the same ship. Stories magnify both fear and fascination. Ancient myths told of fiery comets as divine messages. Today, films and novels imagine alien ships disguised as interstellar rocks. Some stories focus on disaster, others on contact, others on mystery. Each reflects the same core emotions. When we tell stories about the sky, we are really telling stories about ourselves, our hopes, our anxieties, our longing to connect with something larger. Interstellar visitors are blank pages, and we write upon them with our imagination. Perhaps the greatest truth is that interstellar visitors are invitations. They do not ask us to fear or to be fascinated. They simply arrive, indifferent to our reactions. But in their arrival, they give us a choice to retreat into fear, to leap into fascination, or to balance both and learn. Every time a comet streaks by, every time a faint dot of light is identified as a new interstellar object, the universe is offering us that choice again. And each time, we answer with science, with story, with awe. As you prepare for sleep tonight, think of fear and fascination, not as opposites, but as companions. Imagine fear as the grounding weight, reminding you of reality, of safety, of caution. Imagine fascination as the gentle pull upward, reminding you of possibility, of wonder, of dreams. Together, they create balance, a harmony as natural as breath. Picture 3. Eye Atlas, drifting silently across the sky. Some who see it feel unease. What if? Others feel wonder. How beautiful. Both are true, and both are part of the human story. To hold them together is to rest not in certainty, but in openness. The sky will always bring us visitors we do not expect. Some will frighten us, some will delight us, some will do both. And in each case, the real meaning lies not only in what they are, but in how we respond. Fear and fascination are not obstacles, they are invitations to listen more deeply to the cosmos. So close your eyes now. Imagine yourself beneath the stars, watching a faint streak of light drift across the horizon. You feel a tremor of unease and a surge of wonder. You do not need to choose between them. Let both live within you. Let both carry you gently into sleep, where dreams are made of the same mixture, a little fear, a little fascination, and endless possibility. Every interstellar traveler that passes through our solar system leaves us with more than questions, it leaves us with anticipation. Oumuamua surprised us. Borisov confirmed the reality of interstellar comets, and Atlas reminded us that the sky still carries secrets we cannot predict. Each visitor has been fleeting, slipping away before we could truly know it. And so, the question remains, how do we prepare for the next one? The first step in preparing is to accept unpredictability. We do not know when the next interstellar object will appear. It could be decades away, or it could be tomorrow, already streaking toward our inner solar system, waiting for a telescope to notice. These travelers are not on timetables. They do not move with the regularity of planets or comets bound to the Sunday. They arrive unannounced, and they leave quickly. Preparing means living with readiness, keeping watch, trusting that our instruments will see the faint glimmers in time. Telescopes are our first line of preparation. Wide-field surveys like Pan-STARRS and new observatories like the Vera Rubin Observatory scan the heavens nightly, looking for moving points of light. Algorithms compare images, searching for objects whose paths do not match local asteroids. When one is spotted, alerts ripple across the world, astronomers rushing to point their lenses before the visitor slips away. In this way, preparation is a collective act. No single observer can watch the whole sky, but together, across continents and oceans, humanity keeps its gaze upward, ready to welcome the next interstellar guest. Oumuamua moved too quickly for us to catch. By the time we recognized it as interstellar, it was already on its way out. Borisov gave us more time, but still it fled beyond reach. Atlas followed the same pattern. Preparation means building systems that respond faster, alerting telescopes within hours, not days, sharing data instantly, coordinating across nations without delay. The sky belongs to no one nation. Interstellar visitors remind us of that. Preparing for them is a task that unites us, across languages and borders, in a shared curiosity. Beyond watching, some dream of chasing. Could we build spacecraft fast enough to intercept the next visitor? Concepts exist: rapid launch probes waiting on Earth, ready to fire into space at the first detection. Small, nimble craft could approach, photograph, measure, perhaps even collect samples. These dreams are ambitious, but they are not impossible. Technology grows, propulsion improves, missions once unthinkable become routine. Someday, perhaps not far in the future, we may not only watch an interstellar traveler, we may touch it. Preparing means daring to dream and daring to plan. Every visitor so far has left us with lessons. From Oumuamua, we learn to recognize unusual shapes and trajectories. From Borisov, we learned that interstellar comets resemble, in many ways, our own. From Atlas, we learned the importance of vigilance, that even in familiar skies, something alien can slip through. Preparing means carrying these lessons forward. Next time, we will be quicker, sharper, more open to possibility. Each missed chance becomes practice for the one that will matter most. Preparation is not only technological, it is also imaginative. We must prepare ourselves for answers we do not expect. What if the next visitor is larger than any comet we know? What if its chemistry is alien, its orbit stranger than our models predict? What if it is not natural at all? Science thrives when imagination is allowed to wander. Preparing means being ready to ask new questions, to expand our definitions, to hold mystery without fear. Interstellar visitors are reminders of scale. They travel for millions of years before we see them. Their stories stretch beyond human lifetimes. Preparing for them means adjusting our perspective, remembering that we are brief witnesses in a long cosmic play. When we see one, we are not only preparing for science, we are preparing our hearts to feel awe, to feel humility, to feel connected to a galaxy far larger than our daily lives suggest. Preparation also requires patience. We cannot summon interstellar visitors on demand. We must wait, scanning the skies, sometimes for years with nothing new to show. but patience itself is a lesson. Just as the objects take millions of years to reach us, so too must we be willing to wait, trusting that the sky will deliver when it chooses. Patience in this way becomes part of the lullaby of the cosmos. We listen, we wait, and in the waiting, we find calm. Even in imagination, we prepare. Writers craft stories of alien ships disguised as rocks, of messages hidden in comets, of discoveries that change humanity forever. These stories keep us ready. They train us, in a sense, to hold wonder and fear, to imagine possibility. Dreams prepare us just as telescopes do. As you lie back tonight, imagine yourself among those who keep watch. Picture telescopes turning silently toward the sky, cameras clicking in the darkness, data flowing through quiet networks. Picture scientists waking at odd hours, eyes bright with the hope of discovery. Picture spacecraft waiting patiently, like arrows resting in quivers for the call to launch. And then imagine yourself, simply, as a dreamer under the stars. You are part of the preparation, too, not with instruments, but with attention, with imagination, with the simple act of noticing the sky. The next visitor will come, in its own time. It will surprise us, as all have before, and when it does, we will be ready. Not perfectly, perhaps not completely, but more than we were before. Because each appearance makes us more prepared, more patient, more awake to the wonder of the universe. Preparing for the next interstellar visitor is not about certainty, it is about readiness. It is about holding open the door of possibility, keeping our eyes on the sky, and our hearts attuned to wonder. It is about remembering that the universe still has surprises left, and that we are capable of meeting them not only with fear, not only with fascination, but with balance, curiosity, and care. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, let preparation itself be your comfort. You do not need to know when or how the next visitor will come. It is enough to know that the universe continues to write its letters, and that someday soon, another envelope of ice and dust will cross our skies. Until then, we wait. Until then, we dream. As we close this long journey through the mysteries of interstellar visitors, Oumuamua, Borisov, Atlas, and those yet to come, it is time to reflect on what they truly mean for us. Beyond the numbers and trajectories, beyond the debates of science and speculation, lies something simpler, something quieter, a conversation. A conversation between Earth and the stars, one that has been ongoing for billions of years, and one that will continue long after we are gone. Every visitor is a word in that conversation. Some are faint whispers, almost lost in the noise of the cosmos. Others arrive like sudden exclamations, bright, fast, unforgettable. The sky speaks not in language as we know it, but in motion, in light, in the quiet physics of dust and ice. And we, the listeners, do our best to interpret. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we misunderstand, but always we keep listening. This act of listening connects us to something vast. To watch the sky is to admit that we are not the center, but part of a dialogue far larger than ourselves. And yet, this is not a one-sided exchange. Earth too speaks. Our atmosphere glows with auroras that can be seen from space. Our radio waves leak outward, faint signals traveling beyond our solar system. Our lights twinkle on the night side, faint against the stars but present nonetheless. In this way, Earth answers. Perhaps no other world has done so. Perhaps countless others have. We cannot know. But in every telescope we build, every story we tell, every dream we carry, Earth adds its voice to the conversation. Interstellar objects remind us that we are not isolated. They come from elsewhere, carrying with them traces of other suns, other systems, other beginnings. They remind us of impermanence. Nothing stays, everything drifts. They remind us of connection. The galaxy is not a set of separate islands, but an ocean with currents that carry matter from star to star. Most of all, they remind us of humility. To see an object from another system is to feel our smallness. Yet within that smallness lies meaning. For even a brief glimpse of these travelers can change how we see ourselves. We cannot control the visitors. We cannot summon them, cannot delay them, cannot ask them to linger, but we can choose how we respond. We can respond with fear, imagining collisions and catastrophes. We can respond with indifference, turning our gaze downward, ignoring the sky. Or we can respond with curiosity, with the quiet awe of those who know they are participants in something greater. That choice defines us, not the objects themselves, but how we see them, how we integrate them into our story. The conversation will not end. Long after we are gone, comets will still drift, stars will still orbit, galaxies will still spin. Interstellar visitors will still cross through systems, carrying their messages of dust and ice. Somewhere, perhaps, another species will notice, will wonder, will listen. The universe does not need us to continue speaking. But perhaps, in listening, we fulfill part of our purpose. Perhaps the act of hearing the sky's voice is itself enough. We may not be here forever, but for now, we are custodians of this dialogue. We build telescopes to see farther, instruments to measure more finely, and stories to carry meaning forward. Every child who looks up at the night sky continues the work. Every dreamer who imagines alien suns keeps the conversation alive. In this way, listening becomes heritage. Each generation inherits not only the earth, but the sky. As you lie back tonight, let this conversation cradle you. Imagine the voices of the cosmos, rainbows of light, whispers of wind, the hush of snow, the music of rain. Imagine the faint streak of a traveler crossing the night, silent yet filled with meaning. Imagine Earth itself, breathing in rhythm with the stars. You do not need to speak. You do not need to understand. You only need to listen, to rest, to let the dialogue wash over you. For in listening, you are part of it. The endless conversation between Earth and the stars is not loud. It is not hurried. It is quiet, patient, eternal. Visitors like three eye-atlas are part of it. But so are sunsets, breezes, storms, and rainbows. Whether on Earth, whether in space together, they form a single voice, reminding us that we are alive within a breathing universe. So close your eyes now. Let the stars continue their speech. Let Earth answer in silence. Let yourself drift, carried by the rhythm of the cosmos. The conversation is endless, and you are part of it. Good night. Sleep well. Sweet dreams.